All right. Well, welcome everybody. We hope you've had a great set of conference days. Thank you for joining us for our second day and our last session. We hope that all of them have been informative, engaging, and really helped garner some great discussions. This is a reminder, final reminder, to keep yourself muted throughout the presentation unless the presenter indicates otherwise. If you have a question, please use the raise your hand feature, which is located in the reactions icon, or type your question into the chat box, and Jillian and I can field it, or field it, we'll pass it on. There'll be a Q&A after the keynote has concluded, and please remember that the presentation is being recorded and it will be available for viewing after the conference. Live transcription has been enabled, and you can turn it on or off using the live transcription feature. At the close of each session, we'll send out a quick survey where you can give us some feedback on this keynote as well as Julie's from yesterday. So please be sure to take a quick look at that and fill it out and give us your thoughts. So with that last bit of housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to Stan Skrabut, Director of Instructional Technology and Design at Dean College, who will be leading out our closing keynote presentation, entitled Enhancing Information Literacy, Leveraging ChatGPT to Support the Framework for Information Literacy for Higher Education. All yours, Stan.
Very good, wonderful. Thank you ever so much for inviting me to be part of this. It's tremendously exciting. I'm not sure how I got invited. I am not a librarian. Although I am the director of the libraries for Dean College, but I think I also have an interest in how to use technology to support learning, to support research and such. So that hopefully what I show you will lend towards that. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. ChatGPT has just jumped on the scenes. In November, it came out. Even though we've been researching artificial intelligence for decades, ChatGPT jumped on the scene with a big splash. And it is a disruptive, emerging technology that is making changes across the globe. How does this impact what you do, right? You as librarians, you have to figure out how to use this in order to support your support to your patrons, right? And especially academic libraries. I know there's a lot of conversation happening where, you know, faculty are like, I don't want to use it. Well, we need to use it. I'm in the camp that we do definitely need to know how to use it. Some librarians are believing that their job will be obsolete because ChatGPT can do all this crazy stuff and bring all this information together. I don't think so quick, right? We've had a lot of other emerging technologies. We had writing, we had books, the printing press, the internet, Google, we're still here. And ChatGPT is just another tool that we need to learn how to use, but it's not going to make us go away, right? It is a tool that I firmly believe can help research, can help creating new information, basically leveraging the human by working together with the machine. I believe we could get to new heights, and it needs guidance. And those are a few things that I'll talk about today. So this is going to be broken up basically into two parts. The first part is, what is ChatGPT, right? Real quick, in the chat, if you have already started using ChatGPT, just put a 1. And if you have not, this is your first exposure, or you really haven't got an account and used it yet, put a 2. And I'll take a look at those in a second. But just go ahead and let me know where you stand on that. So we're going to look at what ChatGPT is, and then also how to use it to support information literacy. This framework that we have built really a nice framework for describing research and how ChatGPT can be weaved into it. And I'm going to try to provide a lot of examples and hopefully get you excited about it, but also let you know where you can go in and where really librarians can and provide the most support for this. So first of all, what is it? So ChatGPT, the GPT part is generative pre-trained transformer. This means it was fed a lot of information. It broke that information down into billions of tokens, and those tokens are connected through probabilities. And when you feed a prompt, it pulls on different tokens and then goes out and grabs other information and builds things together. It doesn't give you the highest probability because then it sounds very robotic. So it's a little bit below that, so it sounds very natural. It's very conversational, but it transforms the information. And now it's getting to even transform. You can take an image. Somebody had drawn out a diagram of a website, took a picture of it, and ChatGPT created that website. So what's coming is going to be very exciting. It's a form of artificial intelligence now built on GPT-4. In November, it was GPT-3. Very powerful at that point in time. Now we're into 4, and it's 100 times more powerful. And they're just going to keep ramping this up. So it definitely is not going to go away. It uses natural language to communicate. It's basically programming in the English language. And so you can ask things in a very natural way and get responses back. If you don't like the response, it didn't give you what you want, you can converse back, and ChatGPT will have this iterative conversation with you related to that particular topic. As I said, it was built on a lot of information, 45 terabytes, and this was for GPT-3. I don't know what 4 is, but a terabyte, the human brain is about 1.25 terabytes. So when you're using ChatGPT to work on a problem, you're basically filling your room with about 30 other people, bringing them in to work on your problem. That's a lot of power. But it does have some issues. There are limitations to ChatGPT. You know, the news is very quick to point out these limitations. I hear it in faculty meetings all the time. It's like, oh, they gave me the wrong reference. This thing's just totally wrong. That's one of the limitations. The way it creates information, it's not like Google bringing exactly that article back to you. It's basically pulling information together and building it on the fly. So it's more like the human brain. When we were first born, we had zero information, and we keep getting information and we keep building on it. Sometimes my memory, if I was to say, what's the First Amendment? I don't have it memorized. I have an idea what it's in it, but I'm sure I'm going to forget something. Or I may get something wrong, so I have to go validate that. I see ChatGPT as an intern. No offense to my intern, because I have an awesome intern with me. But they do amazing work, but I still, as a supervisor, have to check it, right? So you can get a lot of great stuff, but you got to check it. So one of the limitations is ChatGPT is not connected to the internet. There's ways that you can kind of go around it to make it work in your benefit and use the internet to support that, but it's not actively connected to the internet. And so some information is a couple years old, or it's current until a couple years ago. So 2021 for ChatGPT 3, that was where it sits. I don't know the current one for ChatGPT 4. I'm confident they fed it more information, but that's what the limitation is. It also has biases. So the information that was fed into it, a human made a decision which databases to go explore, or which websites, or which direction to go. And so there's bias in that direction. But there's also the content that's already out there has biases. There are certain voices that are not reflected simply because content was not created by those voices, or it was suppressed in some ways, so those voices are not out there. It's just important to recognize that, you know, it will have those types of issues with it. And right, and this is a librarian thing. This is like, hey, wait a minute, we're missing this part. Let me help you go get that part that you can work on. And there's also, it tries to protect you from information that it believes to be harmful, right? And, you know, when I say it, I mean, it's a machine, right? It's working on algorithms and pulling information together. So we have a tendency to give human properties to cool technologies like this. You know, my car, you know, it's a she. Although my wife's from the Netherlands, it's a he in Dutch. So we have those issues in our family. The recall on ChatGPT is amazing. It's happens in seconds. That it pulls this information and gives you this amazing stuff to work with. But it's not intelligent. It doesn't have any common sense. It doesn't understand what the world is. That is where the human comes into this thing. With that said, we can't let it go, right? This thing is not going to go away. Like I said, we've been working on this for decades. We've now had a great release of this information, and it's just going to get better. We just had a recent release from 3 to 4, and they're just going to keep building on this and doing more amazing things. Businesses are using this to help promote their businesses. In a recent resume builder survey from resumebuilder.com, they did a survey that basically they went through a lot of resumes, or not resumes, but job descriptions that they had. And they reported out that 90% of employers were now asking for employees to know how to use artificial intelligence. Okay, so that's going to continue to happen. I know from personal experience and people that I've talked to that are using this is saving them an amazing amount of time, being able to offload some menial tasks that we have to do. Currently, I'm writing a book, another one, and chapter summaries, not my forte. I don't like doing them, but I know I need them in this book. So I fed my chapters into ChatGPT and asked for a quick summary for someplace to start. Did an amazing job, little complex, so I asked it to give it to me at an 8th grade level. It was more than happy to do it, okay? Did not get tired, did not grumpy, didn't cross-eyed, didn't ask me why didn't I ask that the first time. It just did it and saved me a lot of time. So keys to using this. Foundational knowledge is key. And this is where it's going to trip up students. If students bypass the gaining of knowledge in their discipline, this could be a problem. You need it in order to create effective prompts, but also to understand the results and know if you've got something that's good, or if there's areas that need to be further researched. One of the things that I encourage when you use ChatGPT, you're going to create prompts, and they'll save them into ChatGPT, but it just kind of gets unwieldy. I recommend you have your own document where if you've created this really wonderful prompt, squirrel it away, right? That way you just copy and paste. As part of this session, I shared a document, and that document has these prompts that I'm going to be using, and I'm just copying and pasting and dropping them in, and we'll go from there. But also, it's goes back to this idea of a conversation. If you're not happy with something, or if you want something more, it's a matter of asking ChatGPT. Sometimes you're going to build things in summaries that you want this information summarized, you can add something else to it summarized, then you may work on it. Or you may want it transformed into another product. Lots of different ways, but it's about having a conversation with ChatGPT. So that's a little bit about ChatGPT. And if you have any questions so far, this is probably a good place. Throw them in the chat, and we'll get to it. But in the meantime, I'm going to go to pull up all my tools, and we're going to give a little bit of a show and tell, and talk about each of those pieces of the framework and some thoughts around it, how you can use ChatGPT. So where are we at? Any questions so far?
No questions as of yet.
All right. And what we have ones and twos and twos and two, a lot of twos. A lot of twos. Well, we have a lot of ones. So there was a lot of twos in there. That was interesting. Very interesting. Okay. No judgment, but it was just interesting. Great question, Emma. I have not compared ChatGPT to Bard. I have not played with Bard at all. So I'm so far I'm very happy with ChatGPT, so I haven't left it. So, all right, let's get started.
We had one more question from Joseph. He's asked, could you speak a little to the idea of choosing AI text generator other than ChatGPT?
Could you add a little more clarity to that question, right? Come up on the mic and please share. Joseph? No? So an AI text generator, I'm not. Privacy issues related to FERPA, interesting. Yeah, I would not put any information that was identifiable, relating to student data into FERPA. Part of the agreement with ChatGPT is when you enter information, they're going to basically use it. So in terms of the privacy information, as far as an account, okay, thanks, Joseph. In terms of accounts, I just use my personal Google account to do it. So I don't, tap back to the college and such. So AI text generators, Bard, Claude, I've heard about in terms of a wonderful podcaster to listen to is Joanna Penn from the Creative Penn. And they talk about, she talks about a lot of various tools. She experiments with them all. There is a Facebook group, AI for Writers, and they talk about Claude a lot. So I use Bing, and I'll demonstrate Bing. But a lot of these tools are built on top of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is already being monetized. They have a free version, and so I use the free version. I haven't paid for ChatGPT 4, and the version 4, I think it's 20 a month or something like that, that you can use. So, yeah, as far as using the tool, it will be great to have guidelines, but that's really up to the institution on what the rules. We just had a discussion at our campus talking about, what rules, and for the most part, our student code of conduct covers that. Basically that as far as the instructor goes, if they say, hey, it has to be written by you, being written by ChatGPT is not by you. So we have that covered. So, but definitely things to talk about. So, all right, little time, lots of stuff. Okay. And definitely equity issues. There's all kinds of issues. This is we're at the emerging, but I think also in terms of equity, this is a great equalizer for those that have accessibility issues. I can, you can take content and have it morphed into easier language, or have it, read back to you and such. So,
There was.
first thing that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry?
There was a few other comments that were put in when you were getting gauging the familiarity of the topic with the group. Lisa Lewis had a comment. She said that they've already gotten questions about how to find citations that were hallucinated by ChatGPT, that the resources cited weren't real.
Yep.
How do you think libraries will or can work to kind of combat that, or to help students?
Well, let's talk about it, right? That's part of the framework. So matter of fact, the first thing we're talking, that I want to talk about is the first element of the framework, which is authority is constructed and contextual. So this is definitely a player in this. You have lots of great comments, and a lot of them are actually, I would say a little bit out of the scope of what we're doing today. So, but let me just press on. We'll come back to some of this, and I'd be happy to follow up, for some of the questions that I don't have all the answers, right? This is emerging, and we're trying to figure it out. So, but I'm going to close my chat for now, and we're going to move on a little bit. So, as I mentioned, ChatGPT has a lot of recall, makes a great intern, and the information it's pulling together tokens of information, pulling it together. So it's not going out and looking at an actual document and pulling back that information. It's already done that and broken that information up. And it's like having a conversation with another person, right? And we're having a conversation now about ChatGPT. You're giving me information, but none of it's been cited, right? And I know that that you didn't originally think of a lot of this stuff. You've heard it, and you're pulling this information back. And a lot of that's what's happening with ChatGPT. And it's great because, part of this authority is constructed and contextual piece of the framework is experts know how to seek authoritative voices, but also recognize that unlikely voices can be authoritative and depending on the need. So, reaching out to a podcaster or a blog post, right? This can provide you the information you need at that time. ChatGPT can also do that for you. But as it's been noted, it doesn't do great on citations yet, right? That is probably a concern that they're going to work on how to get it back. And there is a lawyer in New York who basically cited a bunch of cases with ChatGPT, turned it in, but did not go out and proof it. And the judge was not happy with that lawyer's performance. Okay. This is an area that ChatGPT is very weak at, is it doesn't provide citations. You cannot rely on the citations, right? You may go ask it for sources and it does okay there. But if you ask for, something with citations, you have to check it, right? It's going to be essential. It can provide ideas. It can provide a lot of great content, but I would not, put my academic career on writing something, throwing it out there and relying on the ChatGPT sources. Now, can it inform my conversation? Absolutely. But it won't do that. So there's a lot of tools out there that can check if you put something out there and whether it was AI generated. Well, I don't, I would be also suspect, right? In terms of students being brought up before their board, I just want to show you an example. So this was a blog post that I had recently written, and I did use ChatGPT to help, build a lot of this blog post, but I'll explain my process here in a second. And so it comes back with a score saying 100% AI. Plagiarism, nothing. Okay, definitely was not plagiarized. These were my notes, so it wasn't plagiarized. And this is a tool called originality.ai. All right, so for this example, definitely AI. This particular article that I had written, it also says that it was AI generated. To be honest, I'm not sure, right? I think I used ChatGPT to help me with it, but not necessarily go out and get the information from the internet. I basically took my notes, dropped it in here, but it could tell that it was there. The plagiarism part is actually, it's referencing my personal blog. So all these are coming back to me. So this is indicating that as far as that goes. This last one, this particular article, it's flagging things as artificial intelligence. And also part of it is flagging, saying, no, this is not artificial intelligence. And I got a 3% AI score on it. The plagiarism, once again, is coming from my blog. And but this article was written in October, right? Before ChatGPT was released. So I'm getting a false indicator here saying that it believes that it was AI. So Turnitin, a lot of these tools should be viewed suspect also in thinking that it can absolutely find AI, because I don't believe that it can. So just wanted to, that's just a good tool out there, right? Just to, if you're writing stuff, right, to get a sense of that. ChatGPT, if you go to the site openai.com/ChatGPT, there is an indicator. Try it on the web. Although for the App Store, they also have an app that you can use. I have ChatGPT as one of my tools that I bring up. I go here before I go to Google. I now use that as part of my day-to-day workflow. I log in. Once again, I log in with my Google account. So I did not create a sign up, all this. That has actually prevented some people from getting on. So I just continue with Google, and it blesses me, and I am in right away. Right. And if you have not played with ChatGPT, this is basically the setup for it. It's very simple. You have a message box at the bottom. And so we're dealing with authority, constructed authority. So let's just ask ChatGPT, how can librarians use ChatGPT to guide users in evaluating the authority of information sources based on context and information needs? Pulled it from the framework, rephrased it, put it in there. And once I have something I like, it is now pulling this information together. Okay. And I'm confident if you looked over this information with your discipline and expertise, it didn't do too bad. Right? This is probably something that you could use to build some OER content to help students out. It could be used as an explainer for students, and so forth. As far as what you needed to do. Okay. But it didn't provide me any citations, no citations at all. I could probably rephrase the question, ask for citations for this, and it'd be hit or miss, what I got and how good it was, right? So, but it could get you in the right ballpark if you were to go that way. So what I use it for in my research is really idea generation, right? Something that's like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I can use that to start my research, right? Using it to help me outline content. But if you wanted to, primary sources. So here, acting as a student of library sciences, can you tell me who the thought leaders are in a field, specifically information literacy? Now, some of these names you may know. Hopefully, you know. Some of the names may not be relevant, but that's you can go in and do a quick check to pop their names in. And it's like find out a little bit more about them using Google to support what you're doing, right? But if I was to go to Google first, building this list would have been a lot harder. Right? It would have taken me a lot more time in order to go through all the different articles trying to figure out who the thought leader was. So I turned it and said, okay, let's start, in this direction. We can continue with this idea of dialogue or having conversation. So are there any others that you recommend? Right? Maybe throw a please in there, right? You want to make sure that, the AI is not going to come against you later. All right. So toss that out there. So here are some additional individuals that maybe I want to explore and if I like what they have. Okay. So authority is constructed in contextual. Okay. This is information creation as a process. When I start going down a different rabbit hole, I make sure that I start a new chat, and I just that way I'm working kind of clean, and It refreshes things because you have only so much tokens that you're working with, so much memory that you're using, and it can bog down. So I always just start with a new chat as I'm pursuing a new line of questioning in order to do this. So information creation as a process. This is something that I recently did. I went on a conference to San Diego for talent development. I took the train from Rhode Island to San Diego. It was a glorious trip. Took 4 days. But on the way back, one of the things I did is I had my notes. I had my notebook, and I summarized my notes into an audio file. I then took this audio file and I poured it into Otter AI, which resulted in a transcript of that particular set of notes. I took that set of notes and I then said, I asked ChatGPT, I said, create a blog post from the following conference presentation. And so here was one of those. And so I went into ChatGPT and I just took that content, right? So here is my prompt, create blog posts from this information. And then there's that information. And so when I submitted it, it took my notes and maybe we'll get some, oh yeah, all right. And now it's generating a blog post. And we'll let that go. In addition, after that particular blog post, I asked it to basically give me the key points, you know, of those particular notes. Whoops. So it's still sifting through my stuff. Note to self, use a shorter prompt. So. And, you know, basically I asked it for, you know, all the key points, which I then turned into a trip report combination. So all the different sessions, I weave them together basically into this trip report that I later share with others. Normally, when I did it by hand, going through all my notes and carving this out, it would take me about 2 days to put together a trip report. One of the conferences I went to, it took me less than half a day in order to do that. So it was a huge time saver in doing this, right? So all right, so here is this, you know, generating these bullet points based on that content above. And so now, you know, it just continued to do that. So that was a way that I kind of fed that information. Another, we don't create enough videos to explain things, right? So I could take that information, I could ask it to create a video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a 60-second video. That way we can keep on moving. But create a 60-second video script about using ChatGPT and supported information literacy with shot designation, wide, medium, close up, And so it will go in and do all the magic for me, right? If I give information that I want it to use, it'll create it based on that information. This was just letting ChatGPT go out and create its own video that I can hand off to one of those comm students and say, here, you want a cool project? Here's the script. I've proofed it. But once again, I would have to go look this information over using my expertise and say, you know, is this in the ballpark? Is this what I want? And make tweaks. But if I was to write this from a blank page, I'd still be working on it, right? So that is not a good choice for me. So, all right, using other information. So here's the framework. And this is a great place to, maybe I grab a little bit of this framework. And there is another tool called ChatGPT Splitter. So what this does, if I was to feed all that information into ChatGPT right at this moment, it would tell me it was too long. It won't help. I can't do anything with it. But what I could do is I can ask it to go through the splitter and say, you know, keep it maybe 6,000 characters, and it will process it into smaller chunks. And these chunks will, you know, it's basically a document loader, and I want it to remember this information. I'm going to do something with it. And so I can copy this, put that in, and it will say, okay, that one is ready. That one is ready. And so now what I want to do is write, say, bulleted key points based on the material provided. So it's using what it's, you know, what has it in its memory, and now it's going to go kick out some information based on that, hopefully. There we go. And this is great for those too long didn't read articles, right? It's like, you have this article, hey, you have a staff meeting coming up, I want you to read this. You know, it's like, you only have so many hours in a day, so sometimes too long, right? So it's churning on there. So real quick, say we were going to start pursuing a research project. A lot of the projects that, you know, that I've seen students come up with are rather basic, right? Just as lacking imagination. They're there to check the box, but, you know, we can probably do something a little more exciting. So I'm going to stop this and generate a new chat. So what I can do is go in and ask for some research ideas. So say information literacy, and you guys had some good stuff in your comments. Whoops. And plagiarism, that's often used. Equity issues. Let's go with equity issues. I like that. All right. So information literacy, equity issues, and all right, we'll throw it out there. and ChatGPT. Okay, so I'm just looking for some research ideas. All right. So once you have an idea that looks exciting, right? Exploring the impact of ChatGPT on the digital divide, examine availability, accessibility, contributed to. That looks fun, right? So continuing on, what I can do is now just copy this. And just if you're sitting down working with a student, right, you could use this to generate, these keywords that they could go in and use, Google Scholar or your databases in order to kind of start narrowing things down. But I can also create an outline. Whoops. Create an outline based on that content, right? It just as once again, a starting point, right? And it would require sitting down, to kind of review each of these to see if they're, if it's going to match up to what they're doing. So those are some of the ways that, I start working on a problem, even personally, a research problem, just getting a little bit past the blank page. But what I would like to do is show you now the next steps. And this is using Bing. So I'm using Microsoft Edge. So I have Zotero. Let me close that. Zotero. And I'm working on a book dealing with mastery quizzing. I have 239 articles that I need to go read. I know not all of them are going to be valuable. And I've started collecting my notes. So what I have done is I'm using ChatGPT, Bing, which is written on top of ChatGPT, to help me with this process. So here I have, I've downloaded a journal article. Where's my bar here? All right. So the best principles of use for this. So I drag it into Microsoft Edge. I don't want that one. We'll use this one, right? So here I have this journal article that I'm going to need to read, maybe, right? I can work through it, but what I'm trying to do, me personally, is I'm speeding up the process and what I'm doing. So what I can use is Bing in order to help me look at that particular article. And so I can have it summarize the main points for this particular article. And you could bring up a web page and have it do the same thing. It would look at if you brought up a web page in the tab. So I will copy this and I will go over to Zotero and add it as a note. And then, here are asking for bullet points or key points on this particular article. It didn't give it to me as, oh, there they are, as bullet points.
Stan, just to let you know, we got about 5 minutes left in the session.
Yeah, we've only tapped on 2 things. So yeah, a lot of stuff. But I use this process in order to help narrow down, but also when I'm mind mapping, to look at this and use that as part of the mind map helps speed things up a little bit. So that is one strategy that has worked very well for me. I got that from Dr. Andy Stapleton. He's down in Australia. He's quite smart about that. One of the questions that has come up, and I agree with it, that if you're using ChatGPT, you should indicate that you're using ChatGPT. Okay. This is DeVry University. They have shown examples on how to cite this, what their in-text citation looks like, or reference list. The challenge with ChatGPT is that you can't just go back and say, oh, show me this citation, right? You just can't do it. So this is more in line with a personal conversation, which has been cited before with MLA, talking to some of these AI tools and how to approach that. So, so this may give you some ideas. It's like if you're going to use it, then really you need to give credit, for the parts, just like that we're doing everything else, to make sure that individuals are well informed. So we'll get back to some of these questions that we have, but this is just more in line with fun, and probably a good place to come on. So write an email, right? So you can write, that you're having an event. I use it all the time to say, write an invitation to an event we're having, give the basic information. It writes a great event. A proposal for a conference that I will use it to write those types of things. So here is a letter that it crafted talking about information literacy, and oh my goodness, this is too long. Students will not read this. So rewrite to, we'll say 150 words. So now it will go ahead and condense that a little bit. Maybe we have a little bit better chance of, students maybe reading it. But you can also say, rewrite is coming from Snoop Dogg, which is a heck of a lot more entertaining. So there is so many different ways that you can use this. As part of the prompt that I have, or the document that's shared with this conference, I share a lot of other ways that you can use it. Oh, I'm going to do one more. Sorry, one more. And I know he's like, oh, but we want to give you the hook. So one of the chores that I have my assistant director working on is writing LibGuides, and she's written hundreds of them, and she's done an amazing job. But the other day, I decided to write a prompt to help write LibGuides, and so this is a single prompt and something to think about of these tasks that you're really working on. So you're acting as an innovative, high-level academic librarian, right? Here are the skills you're bringing to knowing the framework, copyright issues, open access, how to use bibliography, management tools, just, you guys know a lot. Okay, so we're bringing that all to the table. I want you to use critical thinking, strategic thinking, all this coming into play. And the task is, I want you to create a course learning guide. Here is the comprehensive guide. I want call numbers from the Library of Congress, book recommendations, journal databases. Just give me the works on this. I want you to format it very nice and neatly. When you are ready, tell me that the LibGuide bot is good to go. And so I'm going to copy that prompt. As you can see, it's almost 2 full pages of prompt. And so I am going to feed ChatGPT with that particular prompt, and it's going to tell me that the LibGuide bot is ready to go. So then I went and took a course description from one of the syllabi that was out there. And this happens to be for the School of Dance, basic elements of dance composition. And so nice and neatly, it gave me a starting point. All right. I have another prompt for, we did the 10 research ideas, and act as a we're just going to create this this idea of research bot. Let's see, where am I at? So,
If-
nope.
If we want to
Nope.
be able to take any kind of questions, because I know that we have a happy hour session after this, so it doesn't necessarily need to start on time. But if we wanted to be able to take any questions at all, we should probably be getting ready for that. We got about 2 minutes to the hour.
Very good. Yeah, I'll let this run for a second though. So, so now dealing with that prompt. So research objective, formulate a thesis about that, put together an outline on that particular information, and it will just kind of work on its own. So I just want to give you an idea of some of the high order prompts that you could work with. And I can say continue generating, and it will give me the rest of it. So I will stop sharing. So I'm afraid to look at the comments, right? I don't know if there was any heckling going on. You're muted.
Julian, you're muted.
There was an article, or not an article, a question about the article that you showed in that one prompt. Is the article published as open access, or is it under copyright protection by the author journal? Anything added to ChatGPT or other large language models becomes incorporated into the training data set. The article that you uploaded into Bing.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. Something I had not considered. So thank you.
And it seems a few of the other comments have been very much about the ethics of it. Do you see any guidance being given out in a few years regarding that, or anything emerging that is coming out regarding about how to, I mean, I understand there are no ethics under capitalism, but
Right.
how do we craft best practices as an industry as a profession that seeks to do that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, and a question we're going to be wrestling with for a really long time. AI is not going to go away, right? They're having hearings in Congress. There's lawsuits, of how the information was fed and that, all that. But it's not going to go away because, we could potentially stop it in the United States, but other countries, don't necessarily have to follow our rules and they would continue to use it. And that would then set the United States behind in terms of that. The working world is learning to use it, right? And they're learning, to write prompts like that. They are they're doing it, and we have a unique environment in academia, right? We've created our little, ecosystem, how we do things and what we do. But that's not necessarily followed to the same level outside the walls of higher ed. So, I find this, and I keep wrestling with this conversation because, I look at higher ed and I look at, we have professors who are building courses, right? They may be instructed to go build a brand new course. They will go to the internet and go through Google to look for syllabi from other professors. But I don't see them citing those syllabi as they introduce them to their course, right? They'll make modifications and change it. So we don't even follow our own practices, in a lot of the work that we do, right? We go, I can pull up a LibGuide and see that LibGuide almost word for word on probably 20 other library sites across the world, without giving citation. So the ethics around that, yeah, there is certainly, at the very academic level, responsibility to do it correctly, in terms of citation and what we're doing with it. I like to use ChatGPT at a more basic level to point me in the right direction for ideation, to do that, but I still do my own writing. Even with my blog posts, ChatGPT helped me, but it was still my notes it's working with, and it just reshaped those, and I reshaped them further. The detector, it's like, yeah, you still used AI, and it's like, well, I'm not going to deny that I did. But I wouldn't give credit for that. For the book I wrote, I gave credit in the back of the book that I used ChatGPT and to help to write the book. Speaking of that, if you want a copy of the book for free, here is a link that you can go to. And being librarians, if you want to put it in your library, I wouldn't feel bad. So feel free to do that. So I don't have good answer. I mean, we're at the beginning of this. There's a lot of wrestling with this. I just know, I started as somebody who was in information systems management. That was my first degree, and that's using tools. And we've always used tools to help us do bigger and better things, right? This is a tool. we still have to figure out how to do this. But you know, writing is you know, the how we do it in academics is not that old itself, right? And we're still struggling with this. And humans by nature, we're very much oral transmission animals, right? This writing thing is unique to what we do. But is it the right way? I don't know. So as an instructional technologist, my job is to help folks get to the next level and show them how to use these tools and try to exploit them to the full benefit. So sorry, I don't have the answer that ends all, but yeah, it's a conversation you have to continue to have.
Absolutely. No apologies necessary, all just to further the conversation. I do think we need to end our keynote though. I want to say thank you again so much, Stan, for closing out the conference for us. I appreciate all of the aspects that you showed us. I do think it is a very helpful tool. And you used it in a lot of ways that I hadn't even thought to use it. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. Everybody, thank you for joining. Thank you for engaging in the chat and everything. I hope you've all had a wonderful conference. We do have our happy hour next. Amanda has already opened the room if you want to make your way there through the link in the portal. Please keep an eye out for an email from us that has an all conference survey about the conference overall, not just individual sessions. Again, we really appreciate any feedback we can use toward next year's conference. We always want to improve, make things bigger and better. So please let us know your feedback. Thank you again so much. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day if we don't see you in the happy hour.
Thank you, folks.